Welcome to Don't Scare the Newbies, a podcast where we talk kink, raw and unfiltered. I'm kirizal, a lifestyle submissive in a 24/7 dynamic who likes their kink heavy, intense and scary.
And I'm kirizal's dominant, who delivers all of the above.
And today we are going to be talking about sadism and masochism, all about our experiences of pain. So sadism and masochism felt like a fun topic to tackle next. We've done some very specific kink, we've done some more broad kink, and I feel like this is more getting into roles now. This is getting into identity and how you experience kink, not just what you're doing.
Yes, I think so. And I think there's that really interesting thing about BDSM is actually BDDSSSSMMMM, isn't it?
Something like that.
Different bits of it mean different things to different people.
Yeah, but the S for sadism and the M for masochism are really important ones and things that I think a lot of kinky people explore to some extent. There will be some people who just don't have any interest in those areas at all and focus on other things, but almost everyone we know who's kinky at least dabbles a little bit in inflicting or receiving pain.
Yes, yeah, we do like to hurt people as a group.
That should just be like the tagline for this podcast. We like to hurt people.
We like to hurt people, yeah. Yeah.
How to explain kink to people in the worst way possible.
It's direct, it's to the point.
Yes. Maybe a little reductive, but we can work with it.
Getting the big words in early.
We are, yeah. So for anyone who doesn't know, sadism is the enjoyment of inflicting or seeing another person in pain, and masochism is the enjoyment of receiving and enduring pain.
Yeah, I think there is probably a school of thought that sadism is deriving sexual pleasure from inflicting pain or seeing people have pain inflicted on them, and masochism is deriving sexual pleasure from receiving pain, but that's not a universal experience.
No,
I suppose for people.
Yeah, I think when you start getting into like how psychology defines these terms and things like that, they do tend to focus on the specifically sexual approach to it.
Mm-hmm.
But kink, and this is a whole other topic, but kink is always sort of from the outside defined as being sexual. But for people within the kink community, we know that it's a lot more complex than that. There are people who kink is very non-sexual just all of the time. There are people where some things are sexual and some are not. And there are some people where it depends on their headspace. And then there's some people who are just horny about kink.
Horny about kink all the time.
All the time. Yeah. This feels pointed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that probably...
Yeah, that's probably me.
Yeah.
But even for me, there's elements that aren't sexual that are more about intimacy or closeness or chasing some other kind of need. And masochism is definitely one that crosses across sex and non-sexual for me.
Mm-hmm.
I think saying that it's just about deriving sexual pleasure from pain would be an oversimplification for my masochism.
Yeah, that's fair. And to be fair, an oversimplification of the topic as a whole.
Yes.
I think it's just that psychiatrists are perverts. Another generalization.
Another amazing generalization.
Yeah.
Starting out strong today. We were just talking while the microphones were off about how we want to walk a line with this podcast where we are quite uncensored and raw and unfiltered and wanting to get into the heavy stuff, but we also don't want to actually scare people off or be too confronting or offensive and sort of chase controversy for the sake of it and finding the right balance with that.
Yeah.
And then we've put the microphones on and immediately started making just wild generalizations.
Yeah.
Like, who can we piss off today?
That is true. That is true. Some of my closest friends are psychiatrists, and I stand by what I said.
Starting strong with getting off topic immediately as well.
Yes.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yes.
It's becoming a thing.
Focus then.
Focus. So an important thing to be aware of with sadism and masochism, or like the label sadist and masochist for a person, is that although they can cross over with dominance and submission, they're not the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
You can be a sadist without being a dominant. You can be a dominant without being a sadist. You could be a sadist and a submissive, potentially. You can enjoy inflicting pain, but also like someone telling you what to do. The sort of simple way to remember it is sadism and masochism in a kink context are about what you want to do regarding pain.
Mm-hmm.
And dominance and submission are about what you want to do regarding power.
Yeah.
And pain and power can go very nicely together. They're a lot of fun as a combination, but
Definitely.
you don't have to mix the two.
No.
And you don't have to necessarily pair them up in the ways that people would probably think of as obvious.
Yeah. So what would be, because the other group of terms that you would use is top and bottom.
Yeah.
And that's a different thing again.
It is, yeah, again with some crossover. So in kink, a top is the person who is doing the thing to a person, and the bottom is the person receiving it.
Yeah.
So you could be an impact top who likes to hit people with stuff, and also be a rope bottom, so you like to get tied up.
Yeah.
And that doesn't necessarily tell you anything about how you feel about pain or how you feel about power. I mean, if you're an impact top, you could argue that implies a certain level of sadism, but not all impact is necessarily chasing pain as the goal.
Yeah.
There are very sort of light sensual ways of doing impact.
Yeah.
And certainly when it comes to things like rope, for example, that tells you nothing about how people are experiencing or wanting to experience pain. Because although rope can be painful, it definitely doesn't have to be.
It doesn't have to be. No. It can be quite essential and artistic.
Yeah.
Kind of expression, which is not anywhere close to sadism or masochism or dominance or submission.
Yeah.
Really, it's its own thing.
And as we talked about with sadism and dominance and submission and masochism, the activities that you like to be a top or bottom for compare very nicely with the ways that you want to explore sadism, masochism, dominance, and submission. You can mix and match those things in a way that makes sense for you. And you can be someone who likes to top or likes to take control or likes to inflict pain in some areas of kink, and then have a completely different set of kinks that you like to bottom for, or that you like to experience pain when you're doing, or that you like to be submissive in and be controlled in. And some people like all of the above, and we'll switch between the two. So sometimes we'll seem to almost be using these terms interchangeably because we're talking about a topic where all of them sort of apply. But sometimes it's good to be really specific about them. And with sadism and masochism particularly, a common misconception about kink is that it is all about one lot of people inflicting loads and loads of pain and violence on another.
Yeah.
And actually kink expands way beyond that and is way more complex than that. And so talking about the ways that we play with pain, suffering, violence, all of that stuff is something that really interests both of us, because that's a big area of kink for us.
Yeah.
But it shouldn't be taken as a sort of a universal description of what kink looks like, because all of the stuff we're going to be talking today is a completely optional part.
Yeah. And I think it's worth kind of putting that in context, isn't it? So my perspective on this is as a dominant sadist top.
Yes.
So I am the stereotypical one side of the slash.
Yeah.
And I'm going to make a fairly big assumption here that you are a submissive masochist bottom.
I am, yes, Mix. I have been known to lightly top on occasion, but I like someone to be directing me if I'm playing as a group, and the most dom person in the room tells me, go and hit that person.
Yeah.
Very happy to do it.
Yeah.
And one of the ways that I don't necessarily consider myself to have a sadist side, but I have a side to my masochism that is also a bit of a voyeur.
Yeah.
So seeing someone else in pain.
Yeah.
I'm not enjoying their suffering, I'm enjoying imagining myself in their position.
Yeah.
So that can present very much like mild sadism. So if I hit someone and they bruise, I like that.
Yeah.
But I still wouldn't consider myself a sadist or a top.
You are still experiencing the masochism.
Yes.
In that.
Yes.
Yeah.
And this is why I think with dominance and submission, and with people who identify themselves as a top or a bottom, you'll often hear people talk about the term switch, where you can be on either side. In sadism and masochism, more often than using the word switch, people would usually use the term sadomasochist. And that seems to be a little bit more common than other varieties of switch. I think because for at least most masochists, there is a sort of generalised fascination with pain, where you can quite often enjoy seeing other people's as well as your own.
Yeah.
I think it's more common for masochists to have a little bit of a sadomasochistic side than it is for people who consider themselves pure sadists. Like you don't like pain at all.
No.
Receiving it, do you, Mix?
No, not at all. I am a massive wuss when it comes to to pain. I used to have a rule before I met you. I had a rule that said if I was going to hit someone with something, I would need to properly try it out on myself.
Yeah.
So that I understood how it felt, and I understood about different weights and different techniques and stuff like that would impact on the person. To an extent, I still do that, but some of the unhinged shit that I have to hit you with, I'm like, no. I will test it out gently on the pig. and take it from there.
For context, I am the pig. We are not abusing a farm animal.
Not an actual pig.
Not an actual pig.
No.
I'm the only farm animal that's getting abused here.
Fair. I feel like at least 10% of this podcast is you just keeping me out of jail.
I feel like I have to.
It's stopping me from getting.
You just said you test your impact toys out on a pig. Like, someone's got to do the disclaimer. We're gonna have Peter around the RSPCA banging down the door. Like, give us the pig.
Never. Never. But I'm pleased that you explained the term sadomasochism.
Yeah.
Because it's one of those words where I was like, I think I understand that, but I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah.
As someone who is just a sadist.
Yeah.
And doesn't enjoy pain, that kind of crossover point, I suppose, feels a little bit alien.
Yeah. A
little bit alien to me. And again, it's kind of one of those words where you think, logically, I understand what that must mean. But it's interesting how that feels for you.
Yeah.
Saying, a little bit of kind of sadomasochism in there if you're topping rather than dominating.
Yes, the one thing I definitely can't do is dominate. I just don't have a dominant bone in my body. And I don't know that I would really enjoy topping a scene if there wasn't an actual dominant present. It's like I kind of need someone in this room to be in control of this.
Yeah. Like a responsible adult or something.
Yeah, very that. Like I have done it when I was very new to kink. I thought I was pretty much all sub, masochist, bottom, all of those things. But because I hadn't got very much experience, I didn't want to write anything off. And a lot of the time when I fantasize, it's sort of a third person perspective. Right. So I don't necessarily fantasize like from my own point of view. I fantasize about me or an imaginary character who's kind of standing into the role I would be in and somebody else.
Right.
And I'm watching from like a fly on the wall perspective. So because of that, I was like, it is entirely possible I'm misunderstanding my own fantasies here, and it's the dominant that I'm identifying with, not the submissive, and I should give that a go.
Yeah.
So I had a hookup with someone who's now one of my friends, who you have met. Like, this was way back when I was very, very new to kink. And she was also not really experienced with kink, but definitely knew the stuff she wanted to try was getting hit and getting pegged was what she was after.
Nice.
And so I did that.
Good combo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I did. I really enjoyed it. It was fun. But it was one of those things where I was like, okay, cool, that's an experience I can tick off the list. I had fun. I gave her some bruises, which is cool.
Yeah.
But I don't think I need to do that again.
Yeah.
Like, I don't feel any draw for that to be something that becomes a regular feature for me.
Right. That's fair.
Which, it's not something that I cannot do, but it's also not something that I will ever seek out.
Yeah. Interesting. And I suppose it's suddenly firing off all sorts of thoughts to me is like my first experience of kink was to be put into the top role.
Yeah, by a woman literally saying, if you don't hit me, I won't be able to come.
Yeah. Yeah.
Your role's kind of fixed then.
Yeah. I could talk about being pigeonholed. But that was my introduction to it, and I kind of followed that thread.
Yeah.
I don't know whether it didn't occur to me or whether it just didn't interest me to kind of explore outside of that role. And I think I'm probably too old. It's fairly fixed in my head now, and it felt really good.
Yeah.
But I think it would be interesting if I had a different introduction to the world of kink, whether I might have gone, well, I'll try a bit of that as well.
Yeah.
And how that would have developed. But because I was I'm joking when I say pigeonholed, but kind of pigeonholed from the start. It's like I enjoyed that and pursued that.
Yeah.
Rather than kind of going, well, there's other stuff I can do as well.
And probably if the other stuff was your natural alignment and you were really drawn towards it, you would have felt motivated to seek it out. I think if you had a really strongly submissive or a really strongly masochistic side to you, when you were doing all of these mean things to people, there would have been that voice in the back of your head going, I want to be on the other end of this. I want to do this to me. And you probably would have been drawn to it. Yeah. But it is interesting. Like, I definitely think a lot of kink, our kink nature is very inherent. And I think you see that in sort of how it can run in families and things like that. I'm sorry for upsetting you like that. Me and my sister talk about kink, so I know it's genetic, but you don't want to know that. Yeah,
that is not a train of thought that I want to go down.
I'm sorry for ruining your day. But yeah, because of the way that kink often manifests quite young and is often quite similar among family members, I'm sorry to say. Yeah. I think there is a part of it that's inherent, but I think it can be shaped by our experiences, like the way that some of my kinks are very shaped by trauma for me and have become ways that I sort of process that.
Yeah.
I think I always would have been kinky, even without the trauma, but the trauma has changed what that looks like. And so those influential experiences that you had when you first discovered kink might have potentially shaped the role that you took on.
Yeah, true. But I think that role of things that influence you is also what's kind of really great about kink and the kink community, and also just kind of dynamics and relationships, because we have definitely given each other new kinks or kind of brought kinks more to the surface.
Definitely.
I suppose in the time that we've been together, like we've both always been, very kind of sadist, masochist. That's where we started out when we first got together, and that's been really consistent all the way through. But like the variations on dominance and submission around service and around protocol and stuff like that, I think we've both kind of fed off each other.
Yeah.
In those aspects, you're really service oriented, whereas I'd not had a lot of experience of that. I'm probably a little bit more protocol oriented. You'd had less experience of that.
I knew I had an interest in it, but I didn't realize how much until you introduced me to more.
Yeah. And the stuff you learn from community.
Yeah.
It's just interesting that I think you're probably right that there is an element of kink that is inherent in people.
Yeah.
But it's then your exposure to other stuff and exposure to the community where you see things and you go, ooh, what are they up to?
Yeah.
That looks like fun. Or alternatively, the fuck are they up to? No.
Yeah, that can. I was going to say that can happen, but I don't think I've actually experienced that. It's not a lot.
In theory, I guess. But I think there's something really interesting in. And actually, it was something you've said to me before about how people process and understand the world around them by doing things that are quite dark, I suppose.
Yeah.
In ordinary life.
Yeah, even outside of kink.
Outside of kink, so kind of people watch scary movies because they want to confront fear and the games that children play.
Yeah.
To understand the world around them. I suppose there's just that really interesting thing where that kind of idea of sadism and masochism kind of appears in normal life, and we don't think about it as sadism and masochism. So my big word of the day, Schadenfreude.
I'm glad you said it because I can't pronounce that one.
Yeah, that joy. The enjoyment that people get from seeing other people in unfortunate situations or kind of suffering, sort of thing. So, those TikTok or Instagram videos that are about kind of a compilation of people falling over and falling off stuff and hurting themselves. That's sadism.
It is. It's, if we kind of define sadism and masochism as kinks by their deviation from the norm, it's not a deviation. It's very normal. But it's enjoying seeing someone else suffer. I think it definitely qualifies.
Yeah. And watching, people who really enjoy watching slasher movies for all of the gore and the murder that occurs in them. There's a little bit of sadism in that as well, about kind of enjoying the chaos and mayhem that is happening and the things that happen to people in those.
Definitely.
Those.
I think horror as a genre is something that you see sort of those kind of like day-to-day manifestations of a lot of different elements of kink with how people engage with it.
Yeah.
If you're looking for stuff that's full of jump scares or really psychological or really creepy and that kind of thing, you're probably trying to experience a controlled dose of fear, which could be classed as a form of masochism.
Yeah.
Where if you are in it for the gore and the suffering and seeing horrible things happen to these innocent characters, you might be a little bit more of a sadist. And a lot of people, without ever labeling them as a sadist or a masochist, will be experiencing one or both of those things and getting something from it that they like.
Yeah. And not just, I suppose, looking at it the other way. You like to listen to depressing girly pop.
I do love some depressing girly pop, yes.
That's how I describe it to people I work with.
Yeah.
I think, who was it? Minor digression, I promise. I joined the Teams meeting when you were listening to music down here, and I was happily bopping along to it, kind of shaking my head as I was waiting for people to join. And somebody joined and I hadn't noticed, and they're like, "Oh, who were you listening to on the music?" I was like, "Oh, I think it was Maisie Peters." And they're like, "Oh, I've never heard of Maisie Peters." Depressing girly pop.
Yeah.
Which is your whole genre. But that sort of thing, there's a masochistic element to it as well, because you really enjoy the kind of the sadness and the heartbreak and the devastation that...
I listen to some horrifically depressing music.
You really do.
For someone in such a happy relationship, the amount of breakup music I listen to, but not even just breakup music, like the stuff on my playlists about like horrifying traumatic experiences that the singers are writing about.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's like bopping along.
Yeah, getting some enjoyment from that.
Yeah, and not like enjoyment like I'm glad that they suffer, but enjoyment like it's nice to wallow. It's nice to get all your own like painful feelings out and play around with them for 3.5 minutes or 10 minutes if it's Taylor Swift.
Yeah. Yeah. But like that enjoyment of pain, whether it's from a sadistic view or a masochistic view, there are so many things in life that we experience in that way. So going to the gym and working out to the point that you can't stand up feels intensely masochistic to me.
Same, like too masochistic for me. I do not like that, but some people love it.
Yeah. They get a real buzz out of why. I don't understand.
There's some brain chemistry stuff that goes on there as well, like endorphins and things. Like when I did used to exercise a lot more, I would sometimes get like the sort of high. I didn't get a runner's high. I never got it from running. I just hated running. But I got the equivalent of the runner's high from like lifting weights and from dance. I did used to get that and feel like a buzz afterwards.
Yeah.
But I still didn't enjoy the muscle aches and the tiredness and the being sweaty and all of that stuff. And some people just like the whole thing, and that's what I can't relate to.
Yeah. I can't relate to the whole thing. It's going to the gym and doing that to yourself is not something that's ever really appealed to me. But I do like a really deep massage, like a really dig your hands in, dig your fists in kind of massage is really satisfying to me. Yeah,
and unsurprisingly, I like that as well. And I would say that definitely counts as a form of masochism.
Yeah.
And it's again one that we don't think of as being masochism because it's not abnormal.
Yeah.
There's probably some people who think you fucking weirdos. Why are you letting people do that to you? But no one actually thinks of it as masochism. No one thinks of it as like, oh, you pervert.
Yeah.
But it is a little perverse when you think about it. You want to get some stranger to like dig their knuckles into your back as hard as they can.
But yeah, there must be some kind of brain chemical thing going on there.
Yeah.
I was like, oh yeah, got absolutely pummeled today. It feels good.
And I think it makes sense that to some extent sadism and masochism are like a universal experience because pain is a universal experience.
Yeah.
You might not, you hopefully are not in pain all of the time.
No.
But everyone who lives will experience pain in their life. Physical pain and emotional pain is completely unavoidable. And part of what you have to do as a human being is learn to cope with the stuff about the world that sucks. And that's one of those things.
Yeah.
Even for someone like me who likes pain, there's a lot of pain I've experienced in my life, and I'm sure there'll be plenty more that I do not like and would much prefer not to be experiencing.
Yeah.
But there is no off button for that. You have to get through it. So figuring out ways to embed that into your brain as something that even if it isn't fun, you know it can be, and you know it can be bearable, and you know that you can experience it and come out the other side.
Yeah.
Is something that I think we all kind of grapple with a little bit. Yeah. And I think sadism is still a part of that, much as the thing that we're kind of coping with is pain will happen to me. Maybe part of how we deal with that in the world is I'm going to make someone else have a go of the pain.
Yeah.
I want to see someone else going through the shit.
Yeah. Or that kind of projection thing of, well, I've experienced pain, so I'm going to enjoy this person over there experiencing pain on a silly TikTok video.
Yes.
So now that we've kind of established that sadism and masochism are perfectly normal, universal experiences for people in life, I suppose we should talk about what sadism and masochism can be like in a kink context.
Yeah.
So, why don't you kick us off with what is masochism like for you kinky devil, you?
Masochism is a major part of kink for me, Mix, definitely. And as I touched on earlier, it spans across the more sexual elements of kink for me and some of the non-sexual ones as well, where different kinds of masochism are chasing different needs. Masochism in general, there are some people where it's kind of always a sex thing. It's just that pain turns them on.
Yeah.
And there's some people who are looking for painful experiences where it's not sexual at all. It kind of sits outside that. And I'm somewhere in the middle, but leaning more towards the sexual end of that, where a lot of the time, and it's interesting, some kinds of pain will sort of mentally turn me on, where I'll actively fantasize about that kind of pain, and I'm feeling in a sort of sexy mood when I'm experiencing that kind of pain. And there's other kinds of pain that don't really do that, but still physically turn me on. We talked about this in the last episode with breath play, where breath play isn't necessarily something where there's kind of a mental arousal going on. Sometimes there is, but not as commonly. But there's always a really strong physical arousal response for me from breath play. And masochism can be like that as well. I think particularly sort of pinching kind of pain I really don't like.
Right.
But when you've pinched my clit, I get really wet. I hate that. I wish you'd stop doing it. But like while you're down there, It's a really interesting one. So that even the sexual versus non-sexual, it's definitely not a straightforward binary.
Right. So do you have particular types of impacts then that have that different effect on you, kind of physical versus mental arousal?
Yeah, mixed. Study is both physically and mentally arousing to me most of the time.
Yeah.
Particularly if it's sort of like mid-level impact. If you're being quite gentle and just doing a warm-up, that's not gonna get me super turned on.
Yeah.
And also if you're hitting me like as hard as you can and trying to make me cry, even if it's with something funny that I normally like, I'm probably gonna go kind of past the horny zone.
Yeah.
Into a zone where I'm definitely still enjoying it, but in a very different way.
Mm.
Because when I experience masochism, when I experience pain in a way that's sort of more pushing my boundaries, kind of bumping up against the upper limit of my pain threshold, and challenging me, I still like that, but I like it in a different way, where it's very much about a release of feelings.
Yeah.
Being able to cry, being able to scream, being able to just kind of get really messy and really raw with it.
Yeah.
Is still something that I consider part of my masochism, but I'm also not necessarily enjoying it in the conventional sense. It's not feeling pleasurable. It's not feeling nice.
Yeah.
It's not like a good pain experience. It's very much a bad pain experience, but one that I still actively chase and want to experience, which is very, very confusing to explain. Very confusing even to experience in my own brain.
Yeah, because you've explained it to me about the kind of the different levels of enjoyment that you get out of something. There are things that you enjoy.
Yeah.
There are things that you enjoy not enjoying.
Yeah.
And then there are things that you don't enjoy, but do anyway.
Yeah.
Which, is a really interesting kind of way to think about.
Yeah. So there's some examples that I would put on that sort of scale. Things that I just enjoy would be things like burns and branding generally fall into just feels nice. Moderate thuddy impact, spanking. Spanking definitely comes into that. And then things that I enjoy not enjoying would be things like moderate stingy impact. It would be pinching, like I talked about.
Yeah.
That definitely comes into that. Biting as well. Biting is a really challenging one for me.
Right.
Again, I suppose it's quite pinchy.
Yeah.
And then things that I do not enjoy but will do anyway would be things like sort of the full force whipping that we did.
Yeah.
Awful. Any sort of really like quite hard stingy impact would come under that. But sometimes I just want to suffer.
Yeah.
Probably throwing up actually as well. That's not really pain, but it's suffering. It's a very unpleasant kind of suffering. Being forced to throw up is a bad time, but a bad time that I want.
Yeah, you do enjoy that. You don't enjoy it, but you do enjoy it.
Yeah.
I think I don't know. I wonder whether that would come a little bit further down for you, because I think you enjoy not enjoying it.
It depends. I'm trying to think how graphic I want to get here.
Yeah.
It depends how much you're making me do it.
Yeah.
If I like throw up a little bit once in a scene and then we move on, it's probably in the it's bad but I like it.
Yeah.
In the middle. If it's a repeated thing where you keep doing it until my stomach's empty.
Yeah.
It's definitely in the no, I'm having a bad time.
Yeah, we're having a terrible time.
But I want that to happen sometimes.
Yeah. You're enjoying it. Yeah, we're not enjoying it. Yeah.
It's sort of the desire before and the feelings afterwards.
Yeah.
Are what comes into play with some of my masochism, where it might not be about actually liking it in the moment.
Yeah.
It's about liking the build up and anticipation, the fear and the fantasizing and all of that.
Yeah.
And it's the feeling afterwards of, oh my God, I got through that. I did it. Like I achieved that.
Yeah.
Even though what I've achieved is sat there and taken some kind of horrific violence.
Yeah.
It's that sort of euphoria of being alive that we talked about on the last episode as well.
Yeah.
That applies to a lot of my masochism, I think.
Right. I think going back to what you said about, there is a thinking about the sexual versus non-sexual element of it, and you were saying there is a point of intensity at which it stops being sexual. You get through the being horny about it kind of phase. But whereas I think for me the reverse is true.
Right.
It's like the harder it is, the more brutal it is, the more unpleasant it is, the more it turns me on.
Yeah.
Because I was thinking about this before we started. I generally think that impact play, that in sadistic play, that blah, 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 impact play as a form of sadism generally doesn't massively turn me on.
Yeah.
It itches another part of my brain in a non-sexual way. It's an expression of power and control, and that just that delight, I suppose, from being allowed to hurt someone.
Yeah.
In a consensual way. But there is a point of intensity where it does become sexual for me, and it does actively turn me on to do it. And I wonder whether there's a connection there between the way that it ramps up for you aligning with the way that it ramps up for me. So what's turning me on is in part the suffering for you.
Yeah, well, the point where definitely it does. Yeah, and it's because the point where I usually notice that you're hard is the point where I start crying.
Yeah. It just goes to show how compatible we are.
Yeah,
I suppose. But that kind of. I mean, I hesitate to call it moderate impact because I think I hit you pretty hard all the time.
Moderate for us is probably what I should have said. Yeah.
Yeah, which was also a surprising thing to learn. I think I went through life thinking hitting people, been a pretty good job of it. But then you were saying, crikey, you hit really hard. I don't know whether that was like when we first hooked up, I suppose. And I don't know whether that was kind of an unconscious thing of wanting to impress you a little bit because you came across as someone who had done some stuff.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, I don't want to let the side down. I don't want to disappoint them, so I kind of upped my game a little bit.
Yeah.
But that's always been a slightly surprising thing to hear is actually how hard I can hit.
Yeah.
So yeah, moderate is perhaps not the word, but standard impact, I suppose, that we will do on a pretty regular basis. I really enjoy it, but I don't necessarily get turned on by it. It is when we have an opportunity to do something a little bit more brutal and a little bit more at the really heavy end that it starts to get me really going sexually.
Yeah.
Probably because you're hating it.
And there's an excellent example of what sadism is.
Yeah. Yes.
The specific kink or fetish for seeing someone cry is kind of its own thing. And I think there's some people who probably have that without necessarily having the sadism. But for you, it seems to be very much, it's the tears and the suffering. You don't just want one or the other. You want the whole package.
Yeah, I think so.
Because I dated someone years and years and years ago who, to the best of my knowledge, wasn't a sadist, who never did anything kinky. He never expressed any interest in sadism. But he would get really turned on every time I cried. And regardless of context.
Right.
Whether I was upset, whether it was happy tears, watching a movie, having an argument, having an angry cry, all of the above. He would get super, super turned on if I started crying.
Right.
And we were both quite young and inexperienced in relationships, and he was not sensitive about that at all. Midway through a screaming argument where I started angry crying, he'd be like, "Do you want to fuck?" No. No, I do not.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. It's interesting because that didn't seem to be a sadistic response. That seemed to be just about seeing someone cry.
Yeah, I get that. That's not how I experienced that, I suppose. I think you're right. I think seeing you cry in a context of suffering I have inflicted is really, really hot.
Yeah.
But seeing you cry either in a non-kinky context that I have created or in just a non-kinky context is not pleasant.
Yeah.
I don't get any enjoyment, sexual or otherwise, from that. It has to be coupled with suffering that I have caused in a kink context.
Very specific.
Not just because I've been a dickhead.
Not that you do that very often.
No, thankfully, that is very rare. But also, you do cry more than the average person.
I cry a lot, yeah. I must have been an ideal partner for him, looking back. It's just non-stop waterworks.
Yeah. Like if you're hootling over a song.
Yeah.
That is not
sexy.
That is not sexy times for me. No.
Entertaining, probably.
I mean, I find it cute and adorable in that kind of way, but it makes me want to give you a cuddle and make sure you're all right. Not put my dick in you.
That's fair. I mean, I'm glad you didn't put your dick in me at the Eras tour, because we would not have been able to go the second time.
Yeah, we would have been asked to leave quite early in the show.
Yeah.
Probably before she even started.
Before she even came on stage, because I was crying, yeah. So something that's interesting is, I think the sort of outsider perspective on masochism is sometimes this idea that masochism means that you feel pain as pleasure. So someone will spank you and it'll just feel pleasurable. It'll feel the same way as if someone was fingering you. And that might be how it is for some people. It is how it is for some people, but I think that's relatively uncommon.
Right.
And even for people that do experience it that way, it's usually not every type of pain. It'll usually be one or two specific ones. So I have that with some burns, with most burns, I would say.
Yeah.
I find electrocautery branding I definitely feel as pain, but strike branding I just feel as pleasure, which is interesting how different those two are. Cigarette burns in most places I just register as pleasure, but if you put them somewhere bony or like somewhere really sensitive, then I start getting the pain as well. But it's an interesting kind of pain. It almost feels more like overstimulation than it does pain.
Yeah.
So burns are the one where I'm definitely wired a little bit differently. And it's funny, I started messing around burning myself with cigarettes well before I started thinking of myself as kinky or as a masochist, like in my mid-20s. And I would be on nights out in a smoking area, and it was like my party trick to put a cigarette out myself without flinching. And everyone would be like, "Oh, you must be like so hard and so tough." And I would be like, "No, there's actually a trick to it." Because I would ruin my own party trick. I'd be like, "No, the thing is that no one knows. Everyone's really scared of getting burned with a cigarette, but it's actually completely painless. And if people knew that, everyone would be doing this." And people were like, "Oh, wow. Oh wow, that's so interesting." But no one really was like up to the challenge of finding out for themselves. Then years later I found out the way that they feel to me is not how they feel to literally anyone else. That was the actual secret to my party trick, is that I was a masochist.
Just wired differently.
Yeah. But then there's a lot of pain that I experience just as pain, and it might be pain that I find enjoyable, like thuddy impact.
Yeah.
But I'm still feeling the pain. I'm just liking it.
Yeah.
There's a distinction there.
Yeah. It's fascinating that idea that you, because the idea of masochism is pleasure from pain.
Yeah.
Not pain as pleasure.
Yeah.
That's a different thing. Are you just wired differently? What's the...
I do not know the science of it, Max, but it is interesting.
So a lot of what we've talked about so far has been about physical pain.
Yeah.
As masochism, but that is not the only way to inflict or experience pain. One of the things that you really enjoy and have taught me to embrace and enjoy is kind of emotional sadism and masochism.
Yeah.
So playing with people's feelings
I'm a big fan of that one, yeah.
To hurt them, which was a new thing to me. I've very much been in that lane of the words that you use during a scene aren't really important, if you know what I mean. You say mean words to people, but they're not a reflection of how you actually think about that person. Kind of be disrespectful to them, call them a slut or a whore or whatever, those kind of words. Although I did used to have a real problem with the word bitch.
Yeah.
There's just something about the word bitch that I really...
very rare even now. You've not called me bitch very much.
No.
You don't like it?
No, it's not a word it's not a word I vibe with, and I don't really know why.
Yeah.
I've never really kind of explored why that word in particular. I
think sometimes some words you vibe with and some you don't.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think a lot of people's perception of how you're sort of like verbally or emotionally mean to someone in kink is sort of limited to that. It's like, fuck someone and be like, "Oh, you're such a slut." And it's like, I know that.
Yeah.
Tell me something I don't know about myself.
Why do you think we're here?
Yeah. And that stuff can be fun. That it's just a sort of a slightly spicier version of dirty talk, really. If people are into it and everyone's happy with it, it's fine. But yeah, one of the many sides of masochism that really interests me is getting my feelings hurt.
Yeah.
Poking at insecurities, poking at trauma, even getting really deep into the stuff that's actually gonna bother me. The sort of worst things I think about myself. Yeah. Having someone else say that can be very powerful.
Yeah, and I can remember when we first started exploring that, you basically, in a positive way, you basically trauma dumped.
Yeah.
You told me as much. Well, you didn't do it all in one go, but like over time, I got to know you, and you kind of told me things, and we agreed, yes, you can use these things in a scene if you want, which again is a really powerful thing that I'd not really experienced before, like truly experienced before, like using some of the worst things that have happened in your life and some of the most negative things that you think about yourself, and just saying them out loud to you.
Yeah.
While I'm hitting you, or while I'm giving you pleasure, or doing something else.
Yeah.
You know, remember the iconic mirror scene.
Yes, that was so good.
That we did early on, where I had you kneel mostly naked, I think.
You had me wearing lingerie that was a couple of sizes too small.
That was it, yeah. And I was commenting on your body.
Yeah.
And grabbing a hold of your body, like grabbing a hold of you kind of your tummy and other parts of you, and kind of saying really, really quite mean things.
Awful things.
About you, which I didn't think, that wasn't my opinion.
No.
But it was designed to to hurt you emotionally.
Yeah.
And it was just the most intense thing that we had done up to that point. I think it was a whole new version of sadism, which I hadn't truly experienced up to that point. And yeah, it's just fascinating take on it.
Yeah. And I don't ever want to give the impression that you should use kink instead of therapy, but I have not had a bad body image day since that day.
Right.
Like, I have days where I'm like, I'm gaming, I should probably eat a bit less cheese, I'm gaining weight at a slightly alarming rate, and I now can't kneel anymore.
Yeah.
So I can critique my body, but I'm not self-critical of my body.
Yeah.
I don't look in the mirror and go, my body is terrible. My body is offensive to my eyes. You know, I can't stand the sight of myself. That scene was powerful enough that it just kicked all of that out of my head, because all of the noise that my head made.
Yeah.
You made it for a half hour or whatever instead. And then I was like, hang on, but they didn't mean that. And maybe none of that stuff means anything anyway. Like, maybe I don't even mean it. Maybe it's all just bullshit.
Yeah.
And it went.
Yeah. Masochism as therapy.
Yeah.
I could be rich. Rich. Bring me your worst traumas and your darkest, most negative thoughts, and I'll find a way to banish them.
I feel like there's some ethical concerns there. It's a bit of a gamble.
Yeah, it's a bit of a risk.
And it's one of those things where I think messing around with emotional masochism is definitely something to do from a relatively stable position. You don't have to be like perfectly well adjusted and completely healed, because who is? But come into it from a place of relative stability, not in a crisis point, not at the point where these problems are actually causing you severe distress. I'd started to rebuild my body image already. I'd started to work at overcoming some of the issues I'd had around food and body image and messaging I got as a child and things like that. I was in a position of, I would say, most days body neutrality, with the odd day of just feeling like crap and not wanting to look at myself. There wasn't any days where I hated myself because of my body. And I wouldn't have done that, I think, if I'd still had those days.
Yeah.
But going into it from where I was, where it was an occasional bad day that would ruin my mood, not an actual sustained perception of myself, that helped me to just shift some of the last bits of baggage out of my head. And I think that's more what emotional masochism is for me, it is like spring cleaning for my brain.
Yeah.
More than it being, it's very rarely sexual emotional masochism. It's quite rare that is a turn on. And if it is, it's more like after the fact, from kind of the relief of it being over.
Yeah.
But it always feels very, very raw and authentic, very cleansing and very intimate. Like trusting someone enough to give them like the worst weapons your brain can make against itself and going, do you want to play with these? I feel like every time we do something like that, we get a little bit closer.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. And that exists in that kind of slightly strange space as well, where it's kind of sexual but not. And I think there's two things happening in my brain around that scene in particular, and then some other stuff we've done about or using your specific traumatic experiences, weaponizing your transness in a completely consensual way.
We're both non-binary. It's not a hate crime if we're both non-binary.
Kind of using those things against you is really hot as a concept, and is really hot after the fact, kind of thinking about kind of how intense and how good it felt to be in that kind of free space to just fuck about with that stuff as much as I wanted.
Yeah.
But also really quite challenging in a way, in much the same way as my formative, my kink origin story was, I can't do that. You don't hit a woman, taking the worst things that have happened to you, taking the most negative things that you've ever thought about yourself, and then playing them back to you and agreeing with them, kind of reinforcing that you just don't talk to someone you care about that way.
Or anyone, hopefully.
Anyone. Anyone that way, because you don't say that stuff to people. You don't take all of the negative stereotypes and their traumatic experiences and their negative self-perception and throw it back at them.
Yeah.
You don't do that. So it's really challenging to do that. A, to want to do that, and then B, to kind of enjoy it.
Yeah.
There was that short period afterwards where it's like I had to go outside and stare at some flowers and kind of recenter.
Yeah.
And really think about, what does that say about me as a person?
Literally go and sit in the corner and think about what you'd done.
Literally. That was it.
Yeah.
And I really struggled with that at first. Wasn't sure it was for me.
Yeah. And I wasn't sure it was for you. And we had enough overlap in all of our other kinks that that I wasn't going to be mad about it if we hadn't ever wanted to continue with the emotional masochism stuff. But I had a worry about you early on that you were like pushing yourself to do it for me. You knew it was something I was really into, and you were just gonna fuck yourself up, saying worse and worse things to me, and then having to go outside and sit and think about it for a bit. I was like, is this really good for you? But I could also tell you really enjoyed it in the moment. I could see the reaction that you had to it in the moment, and it was like, there's something here. There's a thread that they do want to pull at. And I didn't want to push you too fast, but I also didn't want to shut you down and be like, no, this isn't good for you, we're going to stop. So I just kind of checked in with you a lot, provided the aftercare that I could, and kind of took my hands off and let you figure out whether it was for you or not and how far you wanted to take it. And it didn't take you long to unpick that, and definitely found a couple of limits for yourself, which always happens with emotional masochism for me. Everyone I've done this with, they cannot find my limits, but they always find theirs. It's a guarantee, because I can take pretty much anything you throw at me when it comes to the emotional stuff, and I do like to go pretty unpleasant with it, but most people will find there are just some things they cannot say to a person and feel okay with themselves afterwards, and that's the stopping point. I think that's understandable. And I think the way I resolved that in my head was kind of feels a little bit oversimplifying, but I put it in the same box as physical sadism. Like you don't hit people. That's a general rule of society. General rule,
polite society. You don't go around hitting people with baseball bats. And yet, I will quite happily hit you with a baseball bat. I will quite happily insert a baseball bat inside you.
Which you also shouldn't do to most people.
Which, again, is not the done thing. So I kind of put it in the same box as that and go, well, if I'm okay with physical suffering, then as long as we are sufficiently careful and conscious of what we're doing in the same way that you would be for physical sadism, why is emotional sadism any different? The boundaries of it might be a little bit different. The parameters of it might be a little bit different, but it's essentially the same thing. I am inflicting pain and suffering on you. So I think that's how I reconcile it.
And I think it's something that is generally harder to inflict than to take. I mean, no, it depends on the person. There are some people who have some really active triggers and insecurities that are causing them real ongoing distress that just wouldn't want to mess with receiving this kind of thing at all. But I think among the sort of very skewed sample of people who are willing to give it a go, it's generally the tops who have the rough time afterwards with processing it, because my reaction to it is usually to feel really kind of like lightened by it and free of stuff, and like I said, like doing a spring cleaning in my brain where I'm getting the stuff out, but afterwards you're having to sit with what you've said. And it definitely doesn't seem to affect you anywhere near as much now, but I think it is something that's potentially sort of risky on all sides if people aren't prepared for the strong feelings it can bring up.
I suppose there's an important safety aspect to that, isn't there, as well? I think you mentioned it earlier. By and large, when we've done that kind of emotional sadism, we are using topics that there is some distance from. Like temporal, time distance. From some of those things that you've experienced. Doesn't make them any less important, doesn't make them any less impactful. But you've had time to process some of those things and maybe not fully heal from them, but make some progress.
Stabilized at the very least. There's areas of my brain that I feel are very, very thoroughly healed, and there's others where there's still some areas that are a little bit raw and a little bit painful, but it's also all about stuff that happened years and years ago. Even sort of the most recent stuff around my drug addiction is coming up 8 years ago now. So I've got a real bit of perspective on everything, and some of the most traumatic stuff, we're going back a lot further, because I am very, very old. We're talking childhood stuff, so it's way back. And that's things that I've had plenty of time to learn to cope with, learn to process, heal from as best I can. And so what we're playing with is some very old ghosts, not something that's really active.
So I think that's something important for people to consider of what's there, if you want to really lean into that kind of emotional sadism for both sides of it, to really understand what your relationship is to that topic. I suppose, and how you feel about it and what the response might be to it. But also, as we have already said, the therapeutic value of taking the power away from it and just letting it out, and that kind of cathartic sort of thing. We are not mental health professionals. We are not telling people what to do. some things to think about.
Yeah, I think it's always important to be aware that kink is not a substitute for therapy, but my slightly controversial, look at us doing controversial again, Jesus Christ.
I know.
My slightly controversial opinion is that also therapy probably isn't a substitute for kink. They are able to resolve issues in different ways from different angles at different points in the healing journey.
Yeah.
And I feel that kink has taken me further along in healing in some areas than I would have been able to get through conventional methods. And that's not going to be for everybody, and that's not suitable, as I said, when you're in crisis. But I think when you want to go from stable to fully kind of integrating your experiences and making peace with them, kink is one of the tools that can be used to make that leap.
Yeah, that's really quite deep.
Thank you. Should we talk about some more sex perversions, Mix?
Yeah.
Masochism in general, we've obviously talked about the physical and the mental aspects of it. For me, I find very much does intersect with my submission as well. And I assume with you being a dominant and a sadist, you probably find there's some crossover of the two.
Yeah.
Just though, much as we talked about at the beginning, that they are two separate things, and for some people can be very separate things. I think if you are a sadistic dominant or a submissive masochist, you're going to find the line between the two can get really blurry because they do complement each other well. And there's definitely an element of my masochism where I might not be pursuing pain for pain's sake. What I might want is to endure pain for a dominant, like almost as a form of service. Like, you want to hit me, so I'm going to sit here and get hit. That can be a big part of it for me. And whether you put that in the masochist box or the submissive box or in both is very open to interpretation, I think. But you can definitely see the blurring between the two there. Do you have things like that as well, Mix?
Yeah, I think so. So, like, from your perspective, it's that suffering element of it, that combination of submission and masochism, I suppose.
It is. I mean, sometimes I just want to suffer for its own sake as well.
Yeah.
I think the only way I can sort of differentiate between them is when I'm single, I only really want to do masochism. Like if I'm doing casual sort of pick-up play, I'm not looking to submit to people. Submission is something that I reserve for a relationship. It's something that really develops as part of a relationship for me, along with romantic feelings, all very tangled up together. But I can do masochism with anybody. I will, sometimes when I'm single, I do still want to be pushed pretty hard. I want to genuinely have a terrible time and cry my eyes out and properly suffer. But I'm suffering for me, not for the other person. Where with you, sometimes what I want is to suffer for you because because it pleases you.
So bottoming rather than submitting.
Yes, Mix. Yeah. But specifically bottoming to seek pain, which is also masochism.
Yeah, and I, to be fair, I think the same is probably true. For me, it's difficult for me to work out where the sadist stops and the dominant starts, or where the dominant starts and the sadist stops, I suppose, particularly in our dynamic, because those different roles that we have are so intertwined as part of our relationship. So I suppose you can kind of see it throughout the course of our relationship. When we first met up, I wasn't dominant in my role as the sadist that day. I was the top. Yeah. I was topping for impact kind of thing. And I really enjoyed hurting you. I enjoy doing that.
I like that too.
Yes. You know.
I get so blushy and flustered when you say things like that. Like, hurting you, I'm like, yeah. Yeah, say that again.
Yeah. So my sadism is its own thing in that, you know, I can quite happily do kind of pick-up play or kind of casual play with people and not feel particularly dominant towards them or over them, and stuff like that. And I can enjoy the sadism for what it is. But I think in an established relationship and in a dynamic, it does become about power as well, and control as well, and forcing my will to go, you know, I'm going to hurt you because I can, because that's my role. I'm going to make you suffer because that's your role, is to suffer for me in that kind of dominant submissive way. Yeah. And you're just grinning across the sofa from me as I'm trying to have intellectual thoughts about BDSM.
I know, but your intellectual thoughts are really hot. I'm sorry.
So I think it's a similar thing to you. There is a blurring, but that blurring is kind of context specific. And I can do the two, you know, the two things can be separated as well. Yeah. I don't need my dominance to be sadistic. Yeah. But it can be. Yeah. You know?
I definitely see that with you if I am really sick or really tired. I know I have encouraged you to be physically mean to me when I'm in that state as well, because of who I am as a person. But generally, you're not doing sadistic things to me if I'm already in bed with the flu.
Yeah.
But you will tell me, like, go and rest.
Yeah.
You will be like, have you taken your medication on time? Like, the dominance is still there. It's just coming through in a caring way.
Yeah.
Where you can switch off your dominance and your sadism, and I can switch off my submission and my masochism. Like, they can function independently of each other in both directions.
Yeah. Yeah.
We've probably done those 2 sections now, so now...
But I don't know whether there's anything in that.
There's probably stuff I can contribute there as well. Let me think if I can lead into it. We're currently arguing amongst ourselves about how to proceed because we completely abandoned the outline at some point in the last hour.
We're having a conversation.
Yes. It's been very organic.
Which is good. Well, on the assumption that that's going to make it into the edit.
Probably because it's funny.
Let's just not bother segueing.
And just start talking about the next point.
Yes, talking about the next point. I suppose it's building on what we talked about earlier on about kind of enjoying it, not enjoying it, and then not enjoying it.
Yeah.
It's that kind of difference between, from a masochist perspective, the difference between good and bad pain, and from the sadist perspective, the difference between deliberate and accidental pain.
Yeah, because I generally don't enjoy pain that I have accidentally inflicted on myself. Things like stubbing my toe or banging my head on a cupboard, things like that are not a good time. Not in any of the varieties of good times that I have with pain.
Yeah.
Probably most of those sensations, if you did it to me on purpose, would be maybe not stubbing my toe. Please don't incorporate that into the scene. That's unpleasant. But probably if you smacked me in the head with a cupboard, it's not very rack of you, but I probably would quite like it.
Yeah.
But if I do it to myself, it's the worst. And things like pain from illness as well, and injuries and stuff. Like, it's not sexy when it's something like that. It's not fun, and a lot of the time it's also the wrong type of pain. So as we talked about with, like, I like burns, I like thuddy impact, I like stingy impact quite a bit less.
Yeah.
Things like a headache.
Yeah.
Is not a nice form of pain.
Yeah.
So even if you could somehow, like, give me a headache with your psychic powers.
Yeah.
That would not be my preference.
No. Just stuff enough poppers up, you get a headache.
True.
Yeah, and that works the other way around as well. It's like the weird irony of, I will quite happily hit you with all manner of weird and wonderful implements for the longest time my arms will allow me to do. But if I accidentally bonk you in the night, like with my elbow, or if I bump into you or drop something on your toe or something like that, that's not sadism to me. That is accidental, and I will apologise for it and go, "Oh, you're okay."
You always apologise so much as well. It makes me laugh because, I mean, if you've, like, dropped something heavy on my foot or something, I'm going to be having a bad time. But there's been times where you've literally just nudged me, like, just sort of very gently bumped into me when we're walking or something. You'd be like, "Oh, I'm sorry, are you okay?" And it's like, you were hitting me with a baseball bat yesterday. Like, I can handle this.
Yeah. But
it's very sweet.
Well, of course it is. I'm a very sweet person, as this podcast is demonstrating. Yeah. But again, there was, ages ago, there was a writing that someone did about kind of making mistakes during impact scenes.
Yeah.
And those kind of, day-to-day accidental thing. And they were saying the difference is intention.
Yeah.
I am intentionally hurting you in a particular way. If I hurt you in a different way, that is a mistake that I have made, whether I've done that in a scene or done that in day-to-day life. If I hurt you in a way that I hadn't intended, I've made a mistake and I should apologise for it.
Yeah.
And I think that's the difference for me, because I am clumsy as fuck. So, plenty of opportunities for me to do some accidental sadism to you.
Yeah.
But it's not the same.
No. I think from the masochist perspective on that, it can be a little bit more complicated, because if a sensation is one that I like enough, it happening by accident doesn't necessarily ruin it for me. So the way I sort of categorize pain in my head is that they're on a scale of intensity. They're on a scale of intentionality, and they're on a scale of type, which is a little bit harder to define sometimes, but there's a lot of different types of pain. So things like a headache versus a cut versus a burn versus a bruise, they're all different.
Yeah.
So if something is within the types of pain that I really enjoy, and it's within the intensity range that I really enjoy, then it not being intentional isn't going to ruin it. It makes it less good. It being more intentional is my preference. But for example, if I'm frying bacon and I splatter hot oil on my arm, a reasonable amount of hot oil, not the amount that's going to require me to go to hospital, I will enjoy that because I like being burned. I like how that feels. Whereas other ways it can work the other way around. So something that I wouldn't.
Sorry, I'm now envisioning a scene where I really messily cook sausages in a frying pan and have you tied up next to it so it splatters on you.
That's not very rack of you, Mix.
I reckon we could make it rack.
Hot oil is
not like splashing it on you, like grabbing the ladle and throwing it at you, but like just casually frying sausages. Anyway, moving on.
But yeah, that can work the other way around as well. So just as something doesn't necessarily have to be intentional for me to enjoy it, if the other elements of it are right, something happening intentionally that is not otherwise a pleasant intensity or type of pain can make it enjoyable because it's intentional. That sort of submissive angle to the masochism, that sort of suffering for the sake of a challenge or for catharsis.
Yeah.
So they can kind of, those three things all have to sort of balance each other in some ways.
Yeah.
And there can be a lot of very different experiences that I will enjoy for very different reasons.
Yeah.
Masochism.
Yeah. That's fair. I think from the sadist perspective, it probably is a little bit more straightforward. Like, is it? Am I doing this intentionally? Is this something that's happening intentionally, or am I making mistakes or doing accidents? But also, there is something about the reaction that it gets from you.
Yeah.
So I really like Thuddy Impact, but I like it because of the particular type of reaction that it gets from you, which is you really kind of get into the rhythm of it, and you really enjoy it, and kind of get quite spaced out.
Yeah.
If it happens for a while, I enjoy seeing that because I know how happy it makes you, but it doesn't have a massive impact on me personally.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. So it's I'm not saying I don't enjoy it, but you probably get more out of it than I do, other than a bit of sadist elbow. Other than a bit of sadist elbow from doing it. But hitting you with stingy stuff and whippy stuff and rubber things. That's the sadism that I really enjoy, because I really enjoy the reaction that it gets from you.
Yeah, lots of screaming, lots of crying, lots of struggling.
Yeah.
The good shit.
Yeah. Trying to get away kind of thing. So I think for me it's a little bit more straightforward than it is for you.
That makes sense. Does any of that ever sort of get activated for you if you see other people, just random strangers suffering? You know, if you saw someone fall over and actually really hurt themselves in the street, for example, do you have any kind of positive reaction to that, or would that more activate compassion in you than it would sadism?
It would activate compassion 100%.
Yeah.
Because it's not something that I am controlling.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's like somebody's fallen over and they might have hurt themselves. That's a compassion response.
Yeah.
Even if I am the cause of it, I'm clumsy, I'm not watching where I'm going, and I kind of walk straight into someone and they fall over, I'm not going to be like, he, sadism.
Yeah.
That's not how that, it just doesn't work that way.
And I pretty much knew that about you already, but I thought it was worth addressing, because I think one of the misconceptions around sadism is that it is just like a complete lack of care about people suffering, and you just thrive off seeing anyone in pain for any reason in any circumstances. Yeah. And I'm not going to say there's no one like that out there, because humans are a diverse bunch, but vast, overwhelming majority of sadists that I've met are only interested in seeing someone suffer if it's pain that they've inflicted with consent.
Yeah. Or seeing someone else inflicting pain with consent. Yeah. There's a very specific context to it. I think there's it's a really interesting psychological or sociological thing, though, isn't there? Because there's something about proximity to stuff happening outside of the world, so outside of a kink context. Yeah. There's something about proximity, because where we started was talking about Schadenfreude. Yeah. And actually, if I have sat and absolutely creased up laughing at a video which is just person after person falling off things and hurting themselves and being hugely entertained by these people's misfortune. But if it was happening right in front of me, then I wouldn't, that's not how I would react. Yeah. And that's almost like a bigger topic about how social media and the internet allows us to kind of dehumanize people. Yeah. But also, I mean, it predates the internet, because it was like You've Been Framed as well, where it was videotapes of people falling over and hurting themselves. Yeah. I think part of it for me when I watch stuff like that is I assume people wouldn't have uploaded the video to the internet or sent it into a TV show if someone got life-changing injuries from it. I kind of figure probably everyone's okay. Yeah. So I feel like it's a guilt-free laugh, where if you see someone fall over in the street, you don't necessarily know right away whether they're all right.
And so it's that moment of, oh, I hope they're okay, before you can laugh at it, and then the moment's pass.
Yeah, that's fair.
But I do also think we are maybe just not quite psychologically capable of acknowledging all of the people on the planet as fully human, because there's just too many of them and we can't process it. So when you see little people on a little screen on the internet, on some level, you're not acknowledging them the same way that you do your neighbours, and that is a big problem, because so much of our lives are lived online now, and we're interacting with these people while not necessarily fully recognising them. Yeah, which is concerning. Yeah,
that is true. Well, talking of misconceptions, then.
Yes.
One of the questions that, when I'm stalking your TikTok and looking at the comments that people leave, one of the questions that comes up time and time again is, how do you feel safe with or loved by someone who would intentionally hurt you?
Yeah. And it is a hard one to answer, because how do you even begin to answer that mix? I mean, I think the short answer. I do feel really safe, and I do feel very loved.
Yeah.
I think a big part of that is because of the amount of consent and communication that underpins everything we do. That's such a big focus for us. That's a big part of why we're enjoying doing this podcast so much, because this is literally what we do with our free time. Like, this is just a snippet of our day. So because there's so much consent and communication there, I know that you're not going to do anything to me that is outside of the sort of broad range of things that I would want to happen. And because masochism is such a core part of me, and so much of what I need in a relationship is someone to hurt me, and someone to dominate me, and someone to scare me, and someone to upset me, and all of those things.
Yeah.
If there were no sadists, there would be no one who was sexually and emotionally compatible with me, and it would suck.
Yeah, true.
So I'm very grateful that people like you exist. Yeah. Because I would be very lonely otherwise. But I think a big part of it is as well that to be loved is to be really seen authentically. Like, love to me is where there is nothing that I need to hide from you, and there's nothing that you need to hide from me. We can crack open our heads and show each other all the mess that's in there. And there are many, many ways that you can do that. Many ways people can be authentic and close and honest in a relationship. But I think masochism and sadism is a really powerful one, because it's very hard to be dishonest when you are in a state that's so intense, when you're playing with such heavy things, heavy burdens that we carry around in our heads, when you're getting those out with a partner and going, look at mine, let's look at yours, let's play with them. It creates a bond that I haven't experienced anywhere else, and part of why I haven't been able to experience that anywhere else is because I'm kinky and I don't function well in a vanilla relationship. Yeah. But part of it is because it creates an opportunity for a level of communication that I think most people don't have. I think there's a lot as well to be said about judging someone's character by their values, not just by the surface level of their actions. So on a surface level, you like hitting people. Yeah. With consent and with sort of a risk-aware approach and all of that. But fly on the wall perspective on what goes on in our house is you beating the shit out of me on a regular basis. Yeah. But that's not what tells me who you are. What tells me who you are is the values that guide the decisions that you make. Yeah. It's the way you treat everyone around you, not just the one unhinged masochist who's asking to get beaten up. Yeah. It's the way that I've seen you go out of your way to do things for people, to support people. The non-judgmental approach you have to everyone that you encounter. The way that you support me with all the things that go on for me. The fact that I felt comfortable within like 2 dates with you. To write you an entire account of my life history. Yeah. With all of the trauma and all of the mistakes and all of the regrets and all of the shame. Yeah. And go, I trust you to use this against me. Yeah. The thing that people see is the part where you use it against me. The thing that I see is the part where I trusted you enough to put my life in your hands. Yeah. Like, I think masochism in some ways is like a really intense trust fall. Yeah. Where you're like, I'm giving you the power to hurt me, and I trust you not to fuck it up. And I think that's really beautiful.
There is not very much I can say in response to that, other than that's possibly the sweetest thing you've ever said about me. So thank you.
Oh.
And that's probably a perfect way to wrap up, I think.
I think it is. It is what I had written in my notes as my point to wrap up, Mix.
There you go.
Like, look at us getting back on track.
It's like we planned it.
I mean, you wouldn't know it from the first 2/3. But I think it was good. That's us for now.
Bye. Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Don't Scare the Newbies.
You can support us on Patreon for bonus content and head to kirizal.com for my blog and links to everywhere else that you can follow me. See you next time.